Hello everyone, welcome to Fall in Love with Creative Computing in a Year, which is a student-led series basically to showcase what the experience of studying the Diploma in Creative Computing at CCI, which is the Creative Computing Institute, would be like. So what's the diploma? The diploma is a year-long studies offered to everyone from UAL who has finished the second year or have graduated, and basically allows you to go to the Creative Computing Institute, which is like a campus or institute in UAL, and you'll be able to study for a whole year computing. And this is exactly my situation. I'm Rocío, lovely to meet you all. And I'm studying at the minute diploma. I'm usually studying graphics at CSM. So I'm between my second and third year, and next year I'll be going back to graphics. And this is the same thing for the two other students who are going to join us today. They are currently back in the third year. They are studying graphics as well at CSM. And we are going to have a conversation because they are where I was last year, and I will be where they are next year. So it'll be a really fun conversation. So let's get them in. Hello. Okay, so first question. What are your names and pronouns?
I'm Jessie. Pronouns are she, her.
And my name's Max, and it's he and him.
Cool. So can you describe yourself in 3 words?
I'm going to say curious,
Mm-hmm.
creative,
Mm-hmm.
designer.
Good.
I would say hacky,
Mm-hmm.
spontaneous, and
Nice.
I'd like to think that I'm quite organized, so organized.
Cool. It becomes very handy if you're organized. How would you guys explain your work to someone who isn't from the creative field?
I use technology
Yeah.
and creative, visual communication, I suppose, to tell stories and
Nice.
past experiences.
Cool. Sounds good. What about you, Max?
I think quite similar media, like design and tech, or sometimes programming or code to look at things that bother me about technology, and I try to alleviate those trigger points.
So this links up with the next question, which is what drives your work?
So I suppose curiosity, like I'm really interested in how things work and how to visualize and communicate things. And I'm also really interested in like the relationships between people, nature, and technology.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I explore and have been exploring a lot in my work throughout the past year.
Mm-hmm. Did you explore that as well when you were doing graphics?
Slightly. It was something that I sort of started doing during my second year of graphics, but then it sort of really kicked off this year when I came back after the diploma and was trying to figure out what it actually is that I want to do.
I think it's similar. I'd say it's like curiosity as well, and I mean now probably more than when I was in first or second year, is like looking at certain technologies and trying to understand them beyond just the surface level, and actually trying to see what the underlying mechanisms are like, and that usually reveals like interesting things that I tend to expand on. But I think overall I like seeing people interact with my work, and that's something drives it quite a bit, I'd say.
Definitely. I think that's the reason why I want to do the diploma, because there was something really interesting for me in interactivity, and like people wanted to participate with my work, and I didn't feel like I had those skills before joining diploma. Yeah. Okay, next question. This is a tricky one. One success and one failure that you guys had.
Let's say one success is when I was on the diploma, I decided to do the D&AD New Blood Awards with some of my friends, and we won a yellow pencil for that project. So that's something that.
Oh, congrats, girl! That's amazing.
Failure is tricky because I feel like I'm always failing. Whenever I'm trying to do something, nothing ever seems to go my way.
Yep.
But then when it finally works, when I figure out what I've been doing wrong, it's just so satisfying.
Definitely. I think getting to an outcome is like constant failure. Like nothing works and you solve one problem and there's another problem, and that keeps happening until suddenly you kind of manage to do something.
I think I agree with that. Like on a bigger scale as well, it's like I think that, I mean, I can't really think of very specific times where I was like something I'd call a success or failure. I think like I usually feel like I succeeded is when I finish a project and I'm happy with it, and the outcome is kind of how I imagine it to be. But I think within my personal creative process, like it's just an iterative cycle of success and failure. And they're usually like small failures and small successes, but by continually just working through it, like small successes ultimately lead to like bigger ones. But I think the failures inform the success. That's something that I find happens every time I work on a project. I don't know if that
100%.
answered the question.
No, you did 100%. What was your experience dating computing full-time for a whole year?
Good. On the whole, good. I think as we were sort of talking about before, it's kind of a love-hate relationship.
Yeah.
Like, there are so many amazing things that you can do with computing. Like, you can build these incredible, interactive, immersive storytelling experiences, but the process of building them can often be quite painful. Like, you'll spend days trying to figure out why you're getting this error. Why is this not working? And then at the end, it'll be just like you misspelled something.
No, 100%. I feel like it's a moment in the diploma that you don't understand a thing and suddenly you do. But before you understand it, it's so frustrating in that sense. But it's really satisfying and really feels really good when you get it right.
For sure. Like it's always a work in progress. I don't think I ever feel like I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, I always feel like an imposter. Like I'm tricking people into thinking I know how to code.
Yeah, imposter syndrome is a big one.
Yeah, honestly, I hear this from a lot of people. Like they never know exactly how to do everything. You're always learning with each project you do. Like, and that's fine. Like if you don't know something, you learn it, and then you make it work.
I think it's a lot about like, especially in the diploma, it's about learning the ways you can figure out how to like fix your code or where to find help and how to read documentation instead of like learning all the technologies in the world. What about you, Max? What was your experience?
Yeah, I think it was quite similar. Like I had a lot of fun doing it because coming from graphics, I kind of just jumped headfirst into a completely new way of designing and started from the bottom and kind of like worked my way up and like tried new things that I haven't done before. And that learning process was really, obviously it was difficult at times because it was hard to wrap your head around some of the technical aspects, but the amount of reward you would get when stuff works or you manage to build something according to how you originally imagined it, it's such a big reward. And yeah, kind of like echoing what Jessie said is that whole process of like getting people to actually interact with your work and getting to that final stage of finishing a project is super rewarding. And I think that kind of like goes with what you said as well, that you kind of just learn to be hacky, or I guess figuring out to solve problems as you go along.
Definitely.
And I think that's really valuable skill to have.
100%. Okay, so best memory from the diploma.
I think it was my first project that I did, on the diploma actually, where I was trying to build a virtual reality experience on the web.
Nice.
And I kept coming up with this error for like days. I did not know what was causing it. It was something like renderer.xr.enabled is not defined. Still remember it now.
No,
it was so frustrating, like reading through all this documentation, searching through Stack Overflow, trying to find an answer to this. And I think the moment that I got it to work, I think it was the first time that I overcame a problem like this. That was pretty memorable. I remember I was in the Central St. Martin's like digital studio with a VR headset on my head, and I was like,
yes, that must be a good feeling for sure. What are you, Max?
The part that like a lot was just meeting different people from other courses. But I think like even just like the people from graphics who came together, like all of us are like very good friends now, and like we continue to work together. And I think that it's overall just a very good working environment, especially because you're kind of stepping out of your course for a year and engaging in something completely different, which allows you to kind of like obviously reconsider your whole personal practice per se, but also meeting new people and getting completely different outlook, and just spending time around people from different creative backgrounds and kind of getting a new viewpoint, and just hanging out with people you wouldn't normally hang out with if you were just on your course. And yeah, those kind of like interactions kind of stuck with me.
I think, yeah, definitely getting to know so many people, even like with COVID for us, or like probably happened to you as well. Even with COVID, it's lovely to like get to know people from different campuses in UAL, because it's really tricky to like get those interactions going. So yeah, I guess the next question is kind of related to what you guys were saying, which is if the diploma changed your career path, like if you saw yourself going somewhere else professionally, and after diploma, you see yourself going completely different or enhanced or whatever.
So up until second year on GCD, I don't think I really knew what I wanted to do at all. And part of the reason I went on the diploma was to try and figure that out. So I'd always had this interest in technology and interaction. And then gaining all these new skills, I realized that technology was something that I wanted to continue to work with after graduating. I really enjoyed creating these experiences that people could interact with. So I suppose, yes, it changed my career path in the way that it helped me figure out what I want to do.
I think I totally agree. I think for me personally, it definitely changed my interests and overall practice, I would say. Because before, I was very heavily interested in branding and the more traditional side of graphic design. Still informs my work today, but just going into this 1 year and kind of being introduced to JavaScript, which is something I use a lot now, and mainly being able to, instead of just interfacing with the web, being able to actually create for it and making tools or websites that other people can use was so powerful to me back then, and still now. But just realizing that I can make something and other people can use it was something that I haven't explored in my work prior to that point. And I think that specific aspect was so enlightening to me. And a lot of my work now kind of revolves around that key point. But yeah, definitely, I think that 1 year made a pretty big difference, just having the time to experiment with different coding languages and technologies. I'm super glad that I did it. And I don't really know what I would do if I hadn't done that year. I think it would still be kind of more graphic design focused, but I think I'm very in touch with the work that I do now and very happy with what I'm doing now. So
I can definitely relate to that. I felt like there was definitely an interest for me in second year or at the end of second year for like interaction. And I've seen some of my course mates doing electronics, and I thought it was so interesting, but I don't think I could have gone in my third year and explore all these technologies if I hadn't taken a year out, because there was definitely, I don't think in third year there's time for like starting to learn these things. I'll properly learn them if you are trying to like handle a project already and like your final major project and all of that. So yeah, like you said, I don't think I would be at the same point. I think I'd be so confused about what I want to do if I hadn't done the diploma. Can you guys show us a project you did after the diploma that kind of like was possible because you kind of learned these skills during the diploma?
I'm just going to run you through the project. This is actually my final uni project, which I finished like last week. But I think it's a pretty good accumulation of like most of the things that I've learned. And it's called Chrome Kit, and it's essentially just a toolkit consisting out of 3 Chrome extensions that are sort of based around the theme of digital well-being and kind of trying to help people find a better balance with their browsing experience. And like I said before, kind of trying to alleviate trigger points that are commonly associated with the internet and browsing the web. just to sum up, it's 3 of them, and they kind of focus on different points, but this is the first one. Of it.
Right, so you have this distraction before coming into the app that you want to go in. Interesting.
Exactly.
Very cool.
This was kind of just, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, like, did you learn JavaScript and HTML and all that kind of stuff from the diploma, and then you were able to apply it to this? Or
yeah, for sure. Like we were introduced to, I think this is also just general, like, I think we were initially introduced, like one thing that really helped me actually was learning Swift, because Swift has those, I think they teach it. I don't know if they still teach it.
Yeah, I'm learning it right now. It's the current use.
Nice. So are you doing the playgrounds and everything?
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Like the playgrounds I thought were so helpful because, I mean, they kind of introduced the same concepts that you apply in every other coding language, I think.
Right.
And the syntax is just slightly different, but that really helped me because it was like an approachable way of just learning things like for loops, like declaring variables, functions, and stuff like that. And then through my own interest, I kind of I switched over to JavaScript, which we were also introduced to by Joel, and like doing exercise at the beginning of the year with P5.js and stuff. And that made it a lot easier to transfer to things like this, like creating Chrome extensions, making websites, and using JavaScript in those kind of ways. But yeah, the diploma definitely helped leading up to the things that I do now with JavaScript especially. Okay, this is the second one.
I love that. That's such a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of it. I think it's kind of like the overarching theme kind of comes through now, but it's kind of different approaches to kind of make people more aware of their interactions online, and like appeal to their overall well-being. Like this one's more focused on physical well-being, like reminding you to take breaks, like get up and interrupt kind of like prolonged sedentary working positions. Last one. Yeah, this one's the last one. Kind of like just visualizing your browser history.
Love that. Actually, the project I want to do now for the last unit we have, I was thinking of doing as well like a Chrome extension about digital well-being, but maybe like with Postnet or something like that. So I definitely ask you about this so I can use you as a reference.
Yeah, sure. Anytime. If you have questions, let me know.
Yeah, I love to. Cool. Jessie, would you like to show? Amazing. Cool.
So similar to what Max was saying before, I found it really helpful learning code, and also because all of these object-oriented languages are quite similar in their sort of logic. So once you've sort of been introduced to one, you can transfer that knowledge across to others.
Mhm.
So this project that I'm going to show you is in Python.
Ooh.
It's a little bit different.
Yeah, you went into Python.
Yeah.
I'm impressed.
So essentially, I don't know, can you hear anything?
Yep.
I'll try to turn the volume down actually. So what this is like an imagined consumer product that allows you to, oh dear, interact with plants through poetry.
Ooh.
So it's a touch-based interface. You touch the plant and it's happy, then it will generate some poetry.
Oh.
So this is actually a work in progress, and
So good.
like I'm currently working on some variable typography to sort of visualize some data points. So like the happier the plant is, then the more abstract and free the poetry and also the visual language is.
Oh, so you're also linking the words that the plant is like kind of like given, but also the visual language of these words.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
Currently I've got like the bits and pieces and I just need to put them together. So I've got Python, but also there's a bit of JavaScript in this project because there's a backend where the poetry is being generated from GPT-2, which is
Wow.
a processing model.
Very
and then,
cool.
Yeah, the front end is like JavaScript, CSS based, and that's determining the interaction. So I'm using a WebGL canvas here to create this color fields. And also to sort of create the, like, determine the position of the text. That also depends on some variables. So wish I could show you the final thing, but it's not quite there yet. So maybe in like a week.
Tag UAL CCI, and then we'll see them all finalized. But that sounds so cool. So were you kind of introduced to, like, I guess, machine learning and like JavaScript and all of those through the diploma, or did you know before?
I vaguely knew about it before the diploma, but one of the units that we had was all about machine learning for creativity. So that definitely gave me a lot of references and ideas about, you know, this is something we can use. And I was really keen to explore the possibilities of it because obviously all of these new technologies affect the way we live so much. It makes sense to me to use these to communicate visually through our design.
Definitely. I think if I hadn't done like the AI machine learning kind of like unit, I would have no idea what you were talking about right there. So it's really good that you learn in that sense. Okay, cool. So let's do the last bit of the questions, and it's a little bit about fears of doing the diploma. I think I had quite a few fears, and I'm pretty sure other people did as well. Did you guys had any fears when you were thinking about doing the diploma?
I think the biggest one was the fact that it was a year out. I didn't want to be left behind. It's quite daunting to spend the first 2 years of your degree with people, forming these relationships and knowing each other's work and building the supportive environment. And then you suddenly leave, and the idea of coming back in third year and without that network and having my friends, you know, sort of do their own thing before me, that was something that I was quite nervous about, but I shouldn't have been, really.
Similar to Jessie, it was initially like leaving that familiar environment behind and kind of jumping headfirst into something that what I understood was quite daunting. It's like coding to me without having a clear understanding of how I would end up using it seemed a little bit unapproachable, because I always understood it in terms of very applied subjects such as engineering, and that seemed so distant from what I was doing as a creative and a more arts related subject. But that kind of fear resolved quite quickly, because I think that's also one of the special things about the CCI, is that it brings those two worlds together in a very friendly and safe environment, where it's easy to learn, and everybody kind of starts on a level playing field. It's kind of a really interesting clash of worlds, like that very technical side of programming and coding, and then the more creative side, with people coming in from all kinds of creative backgrounds. Yeah, that initial fear kind of wore off quite quickly, but I think in the beginning, I think this is something that other people might have gone through as well, is kind of feeling that the entry barrier to coding and programming is quite high. But like Joel said, it's just about keep swimming and work one day at a time. And
yeah. It's so interesting because you guys are now with my cohort, the one, so you guys graduating with them. It's so nostalgic. But yeah, I do absolutely get that feeling of like not wanting to be left behind, wanting to, graduate with your friends. So yeah, what I think Jessie's would go more for you then. What would you say to someone who was scared of being left behind?
Honestly, during the time that we were doing the diploma, I spent so much time at Central St. Martin's anyway, in the studio with my friends, that it didn't, and we obviously like, it doesn't stop you from hanging out with each other when you're done with uni. So for that, it's like, you're not going to lose anyone. And also, like, it's so worth doing the year for the skills that you learn, because now, like, I'm so glad I did it, because I'm able to do so many things that I wasn't before. And with computing, for us, it's a tool, right? And an expanded toolkit means that the possibilities of what you can do with that toolkit are also expanded. That itself, worth it.
Definitely. I think I was, really scared of, for example, not graduating with my friends, and like all my flatmates are in third year at the minute, so they are graduating with you guys. And I was so scared of like being left behind or not graduating with them. But I think you also need to understand that you are all graduating, and maybe each other's going to go in different paths. So there's no point of not making decisions for yourself and for your career just for another year, and then everyone's going to go and do their own thing. So choosing what's best for you and what feels right for you, I think, is the answer. Yeah, Max, I think you were saying a little bit about like the fear of coding. What would you say to someone who exactly fears that coding might be too daunting for them?
I think one of the things advocating for it is that I think the course, the diploma, is kind of designed around understanding that people are coming in with basically no knowledge, and they make it very approachable. Like, I think that the whole curriculum is designed around making coding very approachable, and while respecting the connection to the creative subjects. And I think this shows with the introduction, specifically with P5.js, which is a very approachable way of learning JavaScript, and also just a variety of approaches, also like teaching the students about artificial intelligence, and kind of encouraging them to take a stance on progressive technology as a whole. I think after the first 2 months, you kind of get in the groove of things, I would say, and you start to develop your own interests within all these little pockets, and just kind of go with the projects that you would like to make, and then learn the skills as you go along. I think this is what really helped me, is kind of getting an introduction to the very basics of JavaScript and coding languages, and also kind of more of a contextual understanding, and then developing my own interests and thinking about projects that I would like to realize. And then as I go along, I learn the things that I need to do in order to execute on it. And that's kind of the iterative cycle that has informed my work during that year. But overall, the course is designed to make it approachable, and that's what helped me ease my mind.
Definitely.
And yeah.
I feel the same way. Okay, so the last question. What advice would you give me, knowing that I could be you last year, basically?
Especially during this year, think about the aspects about tech and programming that you enjoyed the most, or the projects that you had the most fun doing. And I think by reflecting on that, you can identify certain aspects about your work that you probably feel most connected to. Then you can kind of go back into graphics and try to connect those two worlds together. But I think just the advice would be to kind of think about what aspects you enjoyed the most, and then also thinking about how you could tie that back into a broader graphic design practice. Yeah. And keep swimming.
Yeah, keep swimming, keep trying.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that. Like, think about what it is that you're interested in. What do you want to do with your work? And equally, you don't have to shoehorn in everything that you've learned on the diploma into graphics. Like, it's equally valid to not use coding and computing for every project now that you've learned it. It's like how, we probably all know how to use Illustrator, but there's no need to use it for every project just because we know how to do it. So
I think that's very valuable. No, I think that's such good advice, because now that we have these tools, we feel like we must use them, but sometimes it works for the project, sometimes it doesn't. Yeah, cool. So that was the last question. Thank you so much, guys, for having this chat. So much with the hand in. You're going to do amazing. Thank you.
Welcome.
Bye.
All right.